Okay. Well, here we are, my friends, at Cultivating Voices, live poetry. I want to welcome you all to our third annual Poetry Pride Parade. There's nothing like being at a parade, and I brought my bubbles for the occasion. For the occasion. So glad that you are with us for the occasion. I want to wish everyone a happy, happy Pride. As we are closing out the month of June, and again, I could not be more honored to be with you, to be celebrating the communities that come together to honor that incredible constellation that is the LGBTQIA plus community. I marvel and I look forward to this reading every year now. As I said, it's our third one. I look forward to it every year. And I think I looked forward to it before we even had it. You know, before we were even here, for these opportunities to come together in celebration of the history of a people's and what it's meant to be part of a community or a constellation of communities, as I truly like to say, that has experienced such a much longer history than we had been allowed to express. And so this, when I think of Cultivating Voices live poetry, and I think about what it means, I always think about the LGBTQ community and the silences that had been imposed for many writers for a long time. All the more for us to be together here today, celebrating Pride. There's a few more bubbles for this Pride Parade. Well, we've assembled today a beautiful array of poets who will be our features, and it wouldn't be the parade concept really. I said, how could we, as we were in the first year of the pandemic in 2020, replicate, because pride events were shut down because of the pandemic. How could we replicate something that looked a little bit like a parade? Or I thought we should have a poetry parade. We should just, which was this amazing stream of poets marching through the streets of the Zoom streets. And so we gather here today for that, our third annual Poetry Pride Parade. I'm your host for today, Kim, as Kim liked to say, the Grand Marshal of the parade. I also want to share that our co-sponsor today, Headmistress Press, the amazing work that Headmistress Press has done, and we've got the co-founders and the grand marshals of that work here with us reading today, and I'm very, very grateful for that. We will, for three of our very fortunate participants today in the audience, you'll be receiving a gift from Headmistress Press, from a random drawing that we will be doing, and we'll get those things in the mail to you as because it's like candy. That's like the candy, throwing the candy out part of the parade. So I welcome you all to this parade. I'll be blowing bubbles all throughout the day until my bubble soap runs out. And I want to tell you before we start a little bit about the history of Pride. So as the Grand Marshal, I feel it's my due to share a little bit of the history. Well, on June 28th, 1969, here in the United States, in Greenwich Village in New York City, began the modern Pride, what we understand as the modern LGBTQ movement, with the Stonewall riots. And that was in 1969. The following year, in 1970, to mark the events of the riots, was the very first Pride parade, Pride gathering in New York City, and emerged in a few other areas. And over the years, Pride has now celebrated all across the world. There are events in the months of June. So today is marking the 52nd anniversary of the first Pride parade. So we march in honor of that. Again, thanks so much for joining. I'm looking forward to this parade today with all of you. It's been a difficult week here in the States. I'm sure you're very aware of the news of the rulings of the Supreme Court. And I fully expect that our readers today some of our readers today will be using this platform today as well to share thoughts and concerns and maybe poetry related. Well, our first reader today, I'm so excited to welcome Meriam back to Cultivating Voices, live poetry. We got to hear Mary earlier in the year in our new book showcase with her newest collection. I'm just, again, when I think of poetry community, and particularly the L comes to mind, because Mary is one of the founders and visionaries of Headmistress Press. Grateful for the vision that you've had over the years, not only with the press, but the surrounding conglomerate, the Lavender Review, and the many other ways that you create community here and around the world now with the folks that you reach. So here's the more formal biography as we turn to Meriam. Meriam co-founded Headmistress Press, edits the Lavender Review, lesbian poetry and art, and teaches in the MFA program at the University of Arkansas. She's the author of Pools of June 2022, which we were able to feature here earlier this year. My Girl's Green Jacket from 2018, and the Lillian Trilogy from 2015. Her poems appear recently in Poetry, Post Road, Prelude, Rattle, Subtropics, and the Poetry Review. And she's modest about her reach, but you'll hear it in the poetry. Big hearts, big love, big bubbles for you, Mary. Thanks for starting off the parade.
Thank you. Thank you, Sly. Let's see, this one's I'm going to be reading a series of form called, I pronounce it Ghazal, Ghazal. And there's always been a debate about how to pronounce it, but I heard an Arabic person say it's with a guttural G, Ghazal. So that's how I'm going to say it. Ghazals are written in couplets, so I'm going to pause after each couplet so that, because in the ghazal, each couplet kind of is like a separate poem in itself. So I will pause briefly so that couplet can have a chance to sort of sink in. And the first one title is a phrase I'm sure you've heard, "It gets better." You didn't tell me it was all about the red ball of the sun, the sucking sky, the doubting orange. Why am I camping in these woods? Oh, flaming yellow am I, a fire in my dress of Girl Scout green. The party wild, the artist high, the music blue. You turn to me, a stranger out of indigo. You take me to your studio's seductive violet sofa, make love to me until I shout in violet. So how could I have known I'd lose the indigo last night? Kiss me now without a doubt in blue. We live together in a house of sheaves of green, sweet scented flower fields around us, sprouting yellow. Fridays, I bring you marigolds and peel your orange. Hurry, my horse's racing heart is stout and red. This actually is a variation on the form. It's got, you might have noticed that there were a lot of rainbow colors in there. So the right, so you heard it, Sylvia. The right side shows the rainbow back and forth, up and down. Okay, this next one is called The Earth. I grabbed my witch's broom too late to sweep the earth under the rug. The watchers came to creep the earth. How could I hide my eyes and which way turn my feet without them watching, hand in grave, to reap the earth? I put my spell on frothing crowds to pacify the very rocking waves that ride and leap the earth. In open sky, I leave the clouds, the jets, the stars, the everlasting icy wind, and weep the earth. To battlements I cry, or just begin to cry. Where is my girl's green jacket? She will keep the earth. Return, my trees, bring back the rocks and rooks, my treasures, and all streams, swift or slow, the fields, the sheep, the earth. When my true army carries wounded home, I'll soothe and heal the crippled seas, the silver deep, the earth. Actually, that poem has the title of the book I'm reading from, my previous book, My Girl's Green Jacket. Herself. The only place to go, inside herself. Oh, but she didn't want to hide herself. Outside the freezing lake, an eagle screaming, a deathly dampness, crows, the tide, herself. Cracking the still, some chimes rebang, rebong. When wind caresses her, nerves ride herself. A breath of icy air inhaled and felt. A gunshot, breath exhaled. What died? Herself. Bleak and abroad, these sounds, sensations, sights. With her hot thoughts, our girl supplied herself. She married daylight down her single spine in wilderness and dignified herself. In case you're not familiar with the form, you can probably hear by now that each couplet ends with the same word. In this case, it was herself. Usually I title the poem with that repeating word. Let's see, I just lost my place here. Here we go. This one's called The Sky. Take me to heaven. Take me folded to the sky. Open the gate. I must escape and view the sky. Washed clean by thunderstorms, a gentle lullaby of midnight air breathes into me, into the sky. If I could take you with me, sister, wouldn't I? My whole life has been begging to unscrew the sky. At noon, the owls and bees from threatened meadows fly, gathering in the wide blue avenue, the sky. What other graves will take the lonely left to die? What is the taste of heaven, honeydew, the sky? There isn't anyone to ask, the questions sigh. We swallow dirt and still we misconstrue the sky. Just happened to see someone wanted a link to a link in the chat, so I'm just gonna paste it in there. I just put in the chat a link to my website, which has links to all my books. So thank you for asking. Leslie Traynor. Nice to see you here. Now the rest of the chazals I'm going to read are from my new collection, my current collection, Pools of June from Exod Books. Yeah, I spent a long time trying to figure out how to pronounce that Ghazal, and a lot of my colleagues, we fought about it and argued, but I recently read a brief article by an actual woman, an Arabic woman whose middle name is Ghazal. And she confirmed for me that the pronunciation is with that guttural G, Ghazal. So I'm glad I was on the right track with that. Anyhow, Ghazal of going. She rises like a secret meant for me alone, and tilts the shattered glass of light at sea alone. Where light on waves lays a mosaic and a moan, serious birds descend unhappily alone. Repeat the secret monthly, kiss her collarbone, and when she travels blindly, let her be alone. The lifelong lonely ones still listening for the phone will live alone on mountains, silently alone. How pleasing the tiny point in time of being known, sun on the golden leaves of one lit tree alone. She weakens through unpeopled dreams at night, the groan of old pianos sounding middle C alone. Look in the kitchen where she's grinding stone on stone to see the habitat of B. Marie alone. This actually is another variation. You could hear maybe that there's a lot of rhyming in here. I sometimes do that with just end rhymes, but that's not part of the actual rules of the form. And this one's called Handwritten. How drunk with longing one can be for hands, for her hot love, her knowing me, her hands. Cicadas buzz and hum in forest trees. Relentlessly, the summer sweats my hands. They say she stayed away from human touch, a spirit pure as sky. Then we hold hands. The insects, birds, and bark, the leaves in air, the leaving day, the memory of hands. How wild the dirt, how soon the soaking storm, in my green canopy, the clock face hands. The peace of lapping waves, the sobs of herons, the place in heaven I may see her hands. I mean, this may not be of interest to any of you, but I just want to just point out another thing about this form, which is that the first couplet repeats the repeating word twice. In other words, the first and second lines have the repeating word, hands, hands. And then in the rest of the couplets, it's just on the second line, hands. And it's actually a beautifully complex form. I love it. But in, I think in the history of it, it was mostly sung. There were big ghazal concerts and stuff. And actually the whole audience would join in and sing with the poet reading the ghazal or singing the ghazal, whatever. Oh, and then here's one last little bit about the rules of this form, which is that in the last couplet, you insert a kind of like, I think it's called a makta, which is a word that it's like a copyright word. It's like your name, and you just sort of slip it in there to sort of like show that this is your poem. So you can play with all kinds of different words. Like in the previous one, I had Marie, which, you know, obviously is kind of like part of my name. This one I just read was a little trickier. I just have the word May, it's just missing the R. And in this one of my favorite is customary. So I thought that was kind of clever. And this song, this ghazal is called Singer. Just when I think I can talk to her, I lose my voice. My fat tongue stuck and lips too shy confuse my voice. I drag my vocal cords through awkward exercises, race up and down the hills like this unscrews my voice. But still can't talk to her. I have too much to say or feel too much. My springing spirit slews my voice. She takes me to her friend's apartment, maybe lover. She talks, she says, she does. It seems to bruise my voice. It seems like she has verbal lovers everywhere. She introduces us, if I could use my voice. She loves me singing in her choir, and I sing her music perfectly in tune. She woos my voice. All this was years ago in crushing times, and yet my customary solitude still skews my voice. That was about my first, thank you. That was about my first girlfriend, a conductor and a cellist. She was just absolutely fantastic. Anyway, that's it. Thank you, everybody. Thank you so
Mary,
much.
thank you. Thank you. Meriam, everyone. Send the love. Send the love. And in honor of that first poem, here is my original Girl Scout uniform for you.
Oh, no, that is amazing.
I'm going to send you a Girl Scout badge.
That really brings me back. Wow.
Mary Meriam, Headmistress Press. Hey, Mary, let's give a signed copy of your book away today. All right, we'll give one a signed copy of choice of one of your collections.
How about my girl's green jacket?
I think we should because of all the colors.
Oh, wait. If it's going to be signed, then I'll do my new one, Pools of June, because I've got an extra copy here. So.
One of you fortunate folks here in the audience today will be getting a notification within the week that you will be the recipient of a copy here of Pools of June, Mary Meriam's collection from Headmistress Press. Thank you very much.
I just saw Joanne go like this.
Joanne hopes. Joanne hopes. All right, my friends. I need to move us along to our next reader. Oh, so look, I love the parade already. How are you doing, Jhaleh? I have a friend with me here, Jhaleh. It's fun to watch with a friend. I encourage you all, if you're able, bring, have someone watch, have someone join you for Cultivating Voices. It's really awesome. And double the bubbles. Well, for Sylvia Pollack, our next reader, double the bubbles for our Poetry Pride Parade. Sylvia happens to be one of my Poets on the Coast sisters, and I'm so grateful that that her collection came out last year to much acclaim, and we'll get to hear some poems from that today, as well as whatever else she cares to share. Well, Sylvia Pollack's poems appear in Floating Bridge Review, the Crab Creek Review, the Stillwater Review, and numerous others. She's a 2-time Pushcart nominee, a 2013 Mason Award recipient, and also a 2019 Jack Straw writer, a 2021 Mineral School resident. And if you are not familiar with the Mineral School, look it up. It's a great residency here in Washington State. Her debut collection is Risking It. And as I said, it has been featured in many readings over this past year to much acclaim. And I'm very glad to have her and the Risking It collection, published by Red Mountain Press 2021, joining us here today for our Poetry Pride Parade. Thank you so much, Sylvia.
Thank you, Sandy, and I'm proud to be here, and thanks also to Kim and to Don for all they do to keep this enterprise afloat. So, yeah, it's wonderful to be here with you all. Anyway, I will read some poems from Risking It. There it is, wherever it is, and also a couple of other ones. I'm going to start with one that's brand new. The only person who's heard it read aloud is my wife, Molly. So you all get to workshop this as I read it. And it's called Two-Sided Coins. Life and death, or love and loss, sickness and health, youth and age, gay and straight, the yins and yangs, all these things we paint as black and white, polar opposites, while everything is on a spectrum. Even the color of my love for you varies from scarlet to violet, depending on which argument we nagged into, how much joy at making up. Day and night, good and evil, waking or dreaming, everything slips from one side of our spinning coin to the other. So precarious to balance on the edge, and yet it's what we must do. Well, there are several things that are iconic for Pacific Northwest poets, and they tend to show up whether we want them to or not in our poems, and things like blackberries and great blue herons and mountains and beaches. So in this next poem I'm going to read you, which is from, in fact, the book, it's Blackberries, and you'll actually get several of the iconic goodies. Blackberries, great Scotch thistles, 6 to 7 feet tall, and rampant canes of Himalayan blackberries guard our shore retreat, roofed by alders, a budding beach, logs, and drying kelp. Each year, though winter tides erase another fraction of the woods, someday we'll take this entire leafy grotto. But for now it stands, a hideaway between beach and cliffs, where I discovered how contemporary is that archaic word, swoon. Fainted with pleasure, the waves inside my head, utter liquid languidness, blue heron stretched against the wind. That evening on my beach patrol, I plucked the first tart August berries and brought them to you. Well, I do like archaic language, and there's a little bit in this next one here, which is called Mossy Limb. And it has an epigraph. When passing by places where birds were sold, Leonardo da Vinci would often take them out of their cages with his own hands and set them free in the air. Giorgio Vasari, 1568. I love how the words mossy limb feel in my mouth. Dropped jaw of moss, then a slight smile as limb lifts from my lips, mirroring Mona Lisa as she recalled a Florentine woman, fair as she herself was dark. Each came to sit in Leonardo's studio for a husband-commissioned portrait, then stayed to dally or slipped away, met in some nearby bosky dell, made each other smile. This spring, Bewick's wrens snatch moss from our magnolia's trunk and branches, build their bower on the back porch, match Leonardo in architectural skills, but reject his distaste for procreation. They breed zealously, then follow Leonardo's advice, release fledglings to a world of dells and limbs and lust. Well, that's at the beginning of a relationship, right? Years later, things change a little. Making the bed. She makes it clear she doesn't need my help or want it. Easier to do the job herself. Tugging sheets onto this bed I bought more than 30 years ago. Good sturdy Scandinavian design. A storage drawer beneath the side that's mine. We've changed the mattress from time to time, rigid slabs of latex foam. But now I need something more forgiving, something to cradle stiffened joints, sciatic pain. Perhaps it's time for one of those adjustable memory beds, each side independently controlled, solo choices in the night, moving silently beside, not toward each other. Well, someone long ago said a lot of this a lot better. This is a poem by Amy Lowell, a short poem called A Decade. When you came, you were like red wine and honey, and the taste of you burnt my mouth with its sweetness. Now you are like morning bread, smooth and pleasant. I hardly taste you at all, for I know your savor, but I am completely nourished. So that was Amy Lowell. Hard to beat her. I have two more little ones here. Anniversary song. Listen, love, what I wanted to say dissolved in this afternoon's plummeting rain. Lord knows we need rain, but the timing was off. No umbrella, words written in chalk on my hand. Listen, love, what I meant to say has already molded. Overripe cheese, fuzzy peach in the back of the crisper drawer. Listen, love, what I might have said is in the pants press I gave to Goodwill. What I should have said was festooned with blossom, garlands of fuchsia crepe paper petals. Listen, love, what I will say is, I'm heating the leftovers. Supper will be on the table at 6. Thank you all for your attention, for being here. Pride to us all. I want to thank you again. And I'm looking forward to hearing the rest of everybody's work. I want to end and send you off with a kiss. Kiss. Trellised tomatoes splay across the south side of our house, get drunk on their own sweet juices, stew in them, grow so boisterously when it rains after dry days, skins split like open zippers. And we, in an act of compassion and forgiveness, pluck them off the vine, offer them to each other's lips. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sylvia.
Oh,
Swirling heart for you
thank
and
you.
yours. Thank you. You've been listening here on our Poetry Pride Parade. Some bubbles as we're out in the parade. There we go. And Sylvia's latest and debut collection is Risking It, folks, from Red Mountain Press. Please do seek out our poet's work. If you're loving what you're hearing, buy a collection or 10 or 10. It's important to support the poets and their work. And just so moved by, I'm fortunate, folks. I've got all these collections that we're hearing from today, and I can assure you, you will want to create your own parade in your own personal library as you continue to hear the work today. Well, let us travel a bit over to hear the work of Anne Walsh Donnelly, who is joining us for the third time for our third annual Poetry Pride Parade. And Anne's been here for 1, 2, and now 3. I'm so grateful to have you here marching with us. And we're in for some amazing poetry coming up from Anne Walsh Donnelly, who lives in the west of Ireland and is now the poet laureate for the town of Belmullet in County Mayo. Congratulations. I can't think of a better person to be one of the beloved poet laureates. I'm so glad that you're recognized. And her poetry collection, most recent, Odd as Fuck. I say it. I know there's the asterisk in it, but I always say it. Odd as Fuck was published in 2021. We heard Anne read in a new book showcase from that. It's from Fly on the Wall Poetry Press. And they also published her poetry chapbook, The Woman with an Owl Tattoo, which we were also able to feature in the first year of the pandemic here. It is a poetic memoir of her coming out journey in her 50s. Please go visit her website, purchase the collections, and now marvel in the poetry of Anne Walsh Donnelly.
Thanks, Sandy. That's a great introduction altogether. I hope I live up to it. Thanks, Sandy, for inviting me to read tonight, and to Dawn and to Kim as well for all your work in the background. So I'm going to read poems from my 2 collections, from The Woman with an Owl Tattoo and from Odd as Fuck as well. The first poem is from The Woman with an Owl Tattoo, and I have a thing for owls, as you might have guessed. So this poem is called Tawny Owl, and it's really about, I suppose, a woman lonely in her marriage and looking for the feminine. So it's called Tawny Owl. Each night after my husband fell asleep and the moon was full, I'd gaze from the bedroom window at the tawny owl perched on the barn's roof. Moving a hand up my thigh, I dream of laying my head on her feathered mound. Moving my other hand down my arched neck, I dream of holding her breast in my palm, her breath moistening my desert skin. Sometimes I open the window to listen to her melody of tuus before husband shoved himself inside me. In daylight, I milked cows, pulled eggs from bottoms of stubborn hens, fed motherless lambs. One November morning, I found my owl, her limp body floating face down in the duck pond. I cawed like an old crow. This is a short one, and again, it's about that desire or that longing for the female body, and it's called Ache of Naked Bodies. Yours and mine in the tall by mirror, soaped skin, pliable as dough, rises, coils. We braid our bodies. Perfume, yours and mine, embrace, seeps into our pores. Summer sighs escape from every orifice. We lick fingertips dipped in salmon flesh, knowing they feed our rare fusions. Thank you. And this next one is actually one that isn't in either collection. It's a relatively new in the sense that I wrote it last autumn. And there's a woods near where I live. They're called Raheen's Woods. I discovered them during COVID. And this, I was walking in them last autumn, and I was just watching the way leaves fall so easily from trees during autumn. And I remember wishing that stuff that I was holding on to would fall as easily as leaves would fall from a tree, so that new good things can appear. So it's called Letting Go. It is cold and dry in Raheen's Woods. Trees stretch their half-clad limbs towards a patchy blue sky. I look up and try to clear my mind of the briars that steal September's light. I pluck a holly leaf from its bush, run my finger along the smooth surface until I reach the tip and blood drips. Further into the woods, blankets of dense moss hang from black branches. I pick a sycamore leaf, colour of an aubergine, from the stony pat, put it in my pocket as I would a relic, comfort between my finger and thumb, until ground into purple dust. A breeze blows a mustard-coloured beech leaf into my face. Tears follow it to earth. I close my eyes to the heaving, a wave of silent wails. I wrap my arms around the trunk of an oak, press my chest against the dark bark, and ask it to help me let go of the withering leaves, littering the floor of my autumn heart. Thank you. And this one is from my collection on this book. And I was just thinking about how difficult it would have been to have been a lesbian in Ireland in the 50s and 60s. Not that it's still challenging, but it would have been a lot more difficult in those days, and trying to hide your love for another woman would have been quite challenging. So it's called The Wonder of You. In St. Stephen's Green Park, two women watch children throw stale crusts to hungry ducks. They listen to Dickie Rock sing The Wonder of You on an old man's transistor radio. They stroke their newly styled beehive hair, sit side by side, feel a heat stronger than August sun. They dare to lick each other's cone, weary of eyes that might stone, dead, their intrinsically disordered love. That's for all the women that have come before me. So this one is one I wrote a good few years ago, but I haven't read it in a long time, so I said I'd read it tonight. And it's celebrating the female body, particularly the aging female body, which we often don't celebrate. And I was actually, to write this poem, this is probably too much information, but anyway, I'm going to say it. To write the poem, I actually stood in front of a mirror naked. So here it is, to my 50-year-old self. Unclasp your bra, let it fall. Ease your cotton knickers down your legs. Look at your naked self, untouched by another for 7 years. Hold your breasts. Watch them spill out of your hands. Run your thumbs along the curved water slide of your spine. Massage the hollow between your hips, smooth as a leaf in late summer. Cradle your belly. Admire the way it protrudes over graying hair, framed by the Y of your thighs. Play a sonata on your skin. Stiffen your nipples. Close your eyes. Dive into the dream of the fisherman's wife. Thank you. And I'll read two more. Yeah. And seeing as we're celebrating Pride Month, I want to read, I have a series of poems in this collection that talk about what they're basically reflect the conversations I had with those, my loved ones, my children and my parents when I came out, which is now about 4 years ago, I think. So I'm just going to read the one about coming out to my father. And I think actually I'm reading this really because I was thinking a lot of Sandy today and losing her father. So I just thought this would be a nice one to read, maybe just as a special, especially for Sandy. Coming out to my father. Did Mam tell you my news? He adjusts his hearing aid. What? Did Mam tell you my news? No. I'm seeing someone. Oh, is it a man? No, a woman. He opens his newspaper, flicks through the pages and says, England are doing well in the World Cup. Later, cryptic crossword completed, he puts his pencil on the table, turns to me and says, you were my daughter the day you were born, and you're still my daughter. So that's my dad. I think we're a typical Irish family. We don't do emotions very well. So that's his way of saying he loved me. Okay, so this is the last one, and it's called Self-Love. It was inspired by a poem from Mary Oliver, and it was really reflecting on, how important it is for us all to look after ourselves. And if you can't love yourself, well, then how can you love anybody else? So it's really exhorting or encouraging people to love yourself and look after yourself as well. Self-love. If you feel your heart leap when you glimpse your face in the kitchen window, admire the faint image that is you. Feast on your beauty. Don't think of self-love as a crumb you must blow from your table. Think of it as the yeast that will develop your dough. Think of how it will nourish you to rise again, again, and again. Thanks for listening and thanks for watching. Take care. Happy Pride Month. Thank you.
Happy Pride. Oh, Jhaleh is here weeping and hooting and hollering, and thank you for the poem, my friend. Thank you for the poem. I love the woman with an owl tattoo so much. And I remember getting it when I remember getting it, and just I love the cover. I love what's in between the covers. And folks, both of Anne's works, and now Anne's also fiction writer. Like there's many things that Anne did not say in the bio. So please do put in the chat where folks can get your amazing collections. And I, of course, always look forward to the next time. It's always too short. Happy Pride. Oh. I always forget that the Pride Parade takes a lot out of me, because it's really speaking to so many of my experiences of what it's been like to come out. It brings up so many things. So I'm taking that deep breath. Well, we move from one poet laureate to another poet laureate. And we first met Mary Oishi at our laureate love fest in February of 2021. It was a life-altering experience for me. And I'm just forever grateful. I'm forever grateful that the pandemic allowed our paths to cross, Mary. Whew. Folks, you are in for some just seriously necessary poetry in these next few minutes. Here's what I can also share with you about Mary. I'm trying to breathe here. I'm trying to breathe. Mary Oishi is the poet laureate of Albuquerque and has been since 2020. I know your term is nearing its completion, and I know that when you were announced as the poet laureate, the community went wild, and that you have done such amazing work, and will continue to when your term ends, because it doesn't really end the work. So, but again, I want to acknowledge and say just what fantastic work you've done. Mary's entire term as poet laureate has been during the pandemic. And what a thing to have accomplished. And you will likely be maybe the only poet laureate that will be able to say that in Albuquerque. Let's hope at least. But thank you for the work that you, all the spaces that you have held. The list is very, very long of what you've accomplished during the term of your laureateship. Well, Mary is the author of Spirit Birds, They Told Me, and co-authored Rock, Paper, Scissors, which was a finalist for the New Mexico, Arizona Book Award. I have both of these collections. Run out and get them, my friends. Run out and get them. I mean, really, I'm saying this about everybody that we're going to hear from today. But I have to be honest, I don't always have all the collections of everybody that's read here on Cultivating Voices, and these collections I have and I cherish them. Mary's new collection will be published from the University of New Mexico Press. I have a very deep fondness for the title of this collection, Sidewalk Cruise Ship. My penchant for the Titanic. That will be published in 2023. Can I blink and make it 2023 now? I guess not. Oh well, I guess I'll have to wait a little bit longer. Mary has served as adjunct faculty for the University of New Mexico, an instructor for the Taos Writers Conference, and as a poetry mentor for Kundaman, an Asian American writers group. She also volunteered with queer youth for 17 years. And I know that you continue to be the bedrock of the community in Albuquerque. Happy Pride to you, and thank you for being with us today. I think you were at a Pride event earlier today, or if I'm not, maybe, oh no, I may be confusing you with somebody else, but I know you have been out and about.
All right. Thank you, Sandy. It's been one of the great joys of this laureateship to get to know you and the community with Cultivating Voices. So I'm really honored to be here today. The first poem I'm going to read is based on my years of volunteering. It's called Sonnet for the Queer Youth. I could have just gone home and read a book each Friday night when weary from the week, but then I always got more than it took to be the one who saw them, not a freak. One girl's father was a preacher man. Her soul was broken when she heard him say, abortion was not in God's holy plan unless the fetus could be proven to be gay. One boy was a handsome football star, deathly afraid his mother must not know until he graduated, got a car, then scholarships, and he'd be free to go. One girl, an only child, slept in her car. Her mom and dad pretended she was dead. Her aunt found out, became her shining star. Come live with me out west, her angel said. Hateful words are cheap, but what a cost. What precious love, what priceless beauty lost. So I'm going to read from Spirit Birds, They Told Me, which I think is still available. It's distributed by UNM Press, but the publisher just brought me the last of them. So I guess I'll get it reprinted somewhere else because the proprietor of West End Press passed away. So, excuse me. I think I've read this here before maybe, but forgive me. It's called Ask Alice. I remember reading Through the Looking Glass with a friend, my first female lover. We both liked Vonnegut and Lewis Carroll. Our favorite saying was the Red Queen quotation when she gave Alice a dry biscuit. Thirst quenched, I hope. Tail end hippies in the late 70s, trying out a new kind of love. She taught me how to kiss, and I knew from the very first one, no dry biscuits here. And this one is from Rock, Paper, Scissors that I wrote with my daughter. And I'm reading it today because of what happened with the religious tribunal, formerly known as the Supreme Court. And this is one that my daughter wrote actually, and I just want to give a big plug for lesbian motherhood. This is called With My Body Between. Fresh back from the abortion clinic, where I hold my body as a shield between the sacred, brave bodies of scared young women and the true believers who come every day to chant and call them names. I'll stand outside with the old ladies for hours because in the 30 seconds it takes a woman to walk from car to clinic, from clinic to car, she can be skewered with hundreds of arrows that lodge in the brain or get tripped up and mugged by that old thug shame. There's a rail-thin girl hidden in her black hair walking with a boy. There's a man on a ladder propped up against a fence shouting, "Mommy, Daddy, don't kill me." Because I can't make him stop with my fists or my wits, I do this one small thing to resist. I gather up my kindness and try to drown out the sound of his shouts and his screams as I walk next to her with my body between. We come here after violence, after the clinics of our city became targets of bombing, burning. We took up the call to bear witness. We don't say much to the patients. What does one say? Hi, I'm a patient escort. I'm here to walk you to the door. We honestly comment on the beautiful day. One by one they come, life having stopped them in their tracks, insisting on decision. The grief is private. That pain is all inside the heart, hard enough. And add to that the pulpit, the rage hurled from followers of Jesus, the Molotovs in the night, the saved and sanctified dropping bullets into chambers. Threats hover sure as truth behind the hymns and posters, the rosaries, the big cowgirl hair. Don't go in there, they kill babies in there. Hard enough. There's a Navajo girl getting out of her car. She's teenaged and speaking Vietnamese. Her skin is deep chocolate brown and orange hair rings her face like a flaming fire. She looks tired. She's smoking, shaking, texting a friend. She's a rockabilly, hip hop, punk rock chola. She's a manicured mall mom, urban farm girl from all the neighborhoods. She's worn every label you can think up, from good girl to fuck up. She keeps her chin up. She's come in a rusty blue Mustang and her brother's pickup truck. She's saved to come out from Texas because it's much worse in Texas. And her boyfriends come with her on the bus from uptown. They thought she wouldn't get here because she just finished 5th grade. She thought she wouldn't get here because in her 45 years, she'd never been. She goes in. She knows herself and she doesn't. She's sure of her strength and she isn't. She's got the light of God in her heart. She's got the power of the Furies in her heart. Her eyes are the very color of earth. They are precisely the color of sky. She looks like Yellow Woman, Guadalupe, Betty Page. She looks like Jesus's mother. She looks like your sister and all women ever named Mary. Stepping out of cars heavy with fate, the news, the serious reins of her life. It is hard enough. Jesus loves you, he shouts. I stand in between. I love you, I don't say. I don't say, but I mean. Now I say firmly, girl, that's just what I mean. And 2 final pride poems. Albuquerque Pride. Today was Gay Pride Day, and from high atop that black Cadillac, I rode up Central Avenue, waving to the cheering crowds, spotted friends and familiar faces here and there, but most were strangers who may or may not know my name. I felt so embraced by my city, by my community of queers, my beautiful loves, wounded but so very beautiful. The artists and the ones who make the wheels go round, the overly addicted, underappreciated, magnificent hearts full of love and belief in the goodness and power of the raw human soul, stripped of unnecessary restrictions, daring to feel, to express, to soar, flamboyant and free, not gender encased, but love liberated, wide-eyed, seductive and real. 2 spirits float past us, magnificent in their turquoise, their reds and their blacks. It's Albuquerque, Indian country. And La Raza is marching, Chicanx, who once stormed a courthouse to arrest a DA. La Raza has no doubt their cause is justified, and I quite agree. I have gained such affection for Los Pueblos Unidos. And I catch a glimpse of my other people as we round the corner by Ta Lin Asian Grocery, me in my bamboo patterned shirt, on past the right-wing hecklers standing on their slim 3 letters, S-I-N. What narrow lives, how sad for them. I couldn't help but call out to my expansive sisters and brothers, sandwiching their hatred, "You're so beautiful." They smiled and called back, "You're beautiful too." It was a very good day to be gay in Albuquerque, a very good day indeed. And one final one, oh no. Well, do I have time for 2 short ones? I guess so. This one is not about Albuquerque or pride, but it's about what has been plaguing us for so many years now. It's called Red Bus. Ignorance strapped us in like crash test dummies fast headed for a wall. She's on the passenger side having just ripped up roses with her "I don't care" to you. He's in the driver's seat, oogling women as we speed by, tossing back paper towels and bleach. We're mostly in the back seats, petrified, some cheering, "Faster, faster, go, go." some clearly sleeping through it all. And the final one is a love that dares. I've been out a very long time. But I remember when it was very, very scary, especially in the Bible Belt where I lived. What torment, love that dares not speak its name. There was a time I thought that name would choke me if I dared to say it one thin time, so paralyzed with shame. But comes a time no power can hold that love. It dares to speak its name, to shout, shout till it's leading the parade. A love once trembling more than dares to speak its name. It's chanting thunder down Fifth Avenue in June. Stronger than the strongest shame, this love that surged in me, so what the name? Swelling pride became the buffer zone till I could safely shrink back down to calm. Here in the ripeness of my middle years, I find the ease to speak it soft, without a second thought, like any other fact of life. My green eyes, my mixed heritage, my left-handedness, so effortless, so natural. There is no dare to speak its name. I happen to love women, that is all. No pride, no shame. Thank you.
Again, I wish you could be here in the background with us to hear like all like what we're doing while we're hearing the readings. Like, oh gosh, there's a lot of sighing and hooting and hollering, and Mary, what a set, what a set. And send the another one. Thank you so much for being with us today. And everyone, a reminder, if you're looking for Mary's new collection coming out in 2023, but in the meantime, definitely seek out Spirit Birds, They Told Me, and Rock, Paper, Scissors, which she co-authored with her daughter, Asia. They're both just astounding. You've heard some of the poems here today. All my love, pride. Thank you, Mary. Well, everyone, we're turning the corner to our turning the corner on our features. We've got a few more to go, and then open micers, get ready, because you are going to be leading the next part of the procession of the parade, the Poetry Pride Parade here on Cultivating Voices Live Poetry. It's our special Pride edition. Our next reader, I'll never forget the first time I heard Karen Poppy, and I remember I remember discovering Karen's work and, reaching out to say, would you come on and read? And I'm so grateful every single time, and incredibly grateful that you've been able to continue to publish your work and went from one collection to three, like within like a very short span of time. And we are all the better for being able to have access to your remarkable voice, Karen. We truly, truly are. Well, let me share with you, if you are unfamiliar with Karen Poppy's work, a little bit more about Karen's journey. Well, Karen has work published in literary journals, magazines, and anthologies vastly. And if you are not familiar with her chapbooks. You will be now. They are Crack Open Emergency from 2020. Our Own Beautiful Brutality from 2021, published both with Finishing Line Press. And her chapbook, Every Possible Thing, also published in 2020 with Homestead Lighthouse Press. Karen is an attorney licensed in both California and Texas and lives in the San Francisco Bay Area. Indeed, please do visit her website. We'll get that in, and I know she's got a very special project that she is going to share some information with us about today. So Karen, take it away, and thank you so much for being here. All my best to you in San Francisco. Happy Pride.
Happy Pride, Sandy, and thank you so much for that introduction. Wow, I just am so touched. Thank you. And the first poem that I'm reading, I wanted to also give a special thanks to Meriam and Lavender Review. It's published there currently, titled Womb. I wrote this for a friend who had a hysterectomy. Interior sister, liminal, as in moving toward change, liminal, as in close to, imperceptible, close to, as within you. Tender hive, she nested in you, grew thick-walled and large. In her next existence, she will emerge and soar. She will live as a bird, carrying and dispersing seed. She will live as a field of flowers. Bees will dust their legs with her pollen, dance, remember her scent, bring her back to their hive, bring her home to herself. So the next poems I'm going to read are maybe a little bit also in the lyrical vein, but I wrote them because I'm fucking angry. And I think we all have a right now to be angry. So the first one sounds beautiful. And I think when I wrote it, I didn't realize what I was writing, but it has a double meaning. So this was first published in Chaleur magazine, which is now defunct, and I miss this publication. If they ever come back, I would love to be published in them again. This poem is titled Miracles, and it can be read or understood two ways. One as a love poem and one as a little bit of #MeToo. Miracles. The quiet was part of the meaning, part of the mind, the access of perfection to the page. Wallace Stevens. Here's my poem. I taste the green of morning. I think you're too young for me, but I have to admit, I miss you. Some days I think of miracles, like us meeting, like horses grazing on golden hills, like the thick berry of your lips and the sad miracle of our distance, bringing us closer through silence. Someday you want me to spend the night when you feel more a woman, owning and independent. That is when I want to open you to your most vulnerable self, luminous as words and just as miraculous, a book perfected through its reading. And this one doesn't leave too much to the imagination. When I first published these in 2018, I was scared because I wasn't ready to have these in my own name. Now I am. I don't know if I'm able to show this adequately, but it was first published under my pen name, Ina Bricks, and it's titled Two Scoops. It's in the shape of an ice cream cone with 2 scoops. 2 scoops. I promised to treat you to ice cream if you told me about Cassandra. And even though you did not take me up on my offer, I'll offer you 2 scoops. 1, modern day Cassandra is not crazy. People do listen to her pronouncements. Modern day Cassandra can choose to speak. Modern day Cassandra can bring it all down. Modern day Cassandra can also choose silence. 2, I chose a middle road, saying what happened without naming you, deciding to hold your name, not topple communities. As long as you promise, the buck stops with me. You and your friends will not hurt anyone else as you hurt me. I'm a good person, not 31 flavors or cold dish. I can have as many lovers as I choose, and I can say what I choose. That does not justify violation. I do admit, maybe the dish is best served cold. Justice, revenge, would you prefer a cup or a cone? And I have one more because I am feeling metaphorically murderous against the patriarchy right now. And this one, I was on the fence about reading it today, but I will read it. It also has a twist at the end, so I hope that it's understood in that way. But I will raise up my finger like this when the twist is coming, so y'all will know. This poem does have some homophobic language in it, so I wanted to put in that content warning. Deserved. She had it coming to her, looking at his prom date like that, looking like she did, as if a dress would make her any less of a bull dyke. He tore satin ruffles off her shoulders. Cold case, police never found the monster who did it. Naked, dumped in those woods beyond our high school football field, sliced to shit. Here's the twist, y'all. In New York, LA, Tokyo, she wore a sharp new tuxedo, burned his, knifed and bloodied years ago, leaving this small town to triumph on Broadway, made a killing in Hollywood. Thank you.
That's a set. 2 scoops for you, my friend. 2 scoops for you.
Thanks, Sandy.
Try.
Happy Pride, Sandy. Happy
Happy
Pride, everyone.
Wow. Karen Poppy, everyone. Run out. Get the chapbooks. And Karen, will you share a little bit about the anthology project?
Sure. I am going to post in the chat box along with my own website the fundraising information for Open Air Press. They are creating an anthology that is about coming out stories, and my coming out story will be in there too. It's a short prose piece, nonfiction.
Thank you very much, folks. Yeah, if you want to contribute, here's an opportunity to potentially get something published around your own story. And thank you, Karen, for bringing that to the parade today. Ooh, poems, wow. A few more bubbles here in the Poetry Pride Parade as we move from the San Francisco Bay Area up the coast to Oregon to hear from a poet that we got to hear just recently in one of our new book showcases earlier this spring. And I love it when I get to learn of a new poet that becomes like another of my treasured voice, another of my treasured voices among among the many voices that I get to hear. So I'm grateful and a little spoiled that I get to hear Andrea Deeken read again so soon. Because honestly, I'd go to your reading every day if you had one. I'd go to your reading every day if you had one. Let me tell you a little bit more about Andrea. So Andrea was born in rural Missouri, and her writing has appeared in Beltway Poetry Quarterly. And I think I saw Indran join here from Beltway a little earlier. So welcome to you, my friend. From Beltway Poetry Quarterly, which if you're not familiar with, an incredible journal out of the DC, Maryland area and the Beltway. Beyond Queer Words, the Blue Mountain Review, Spoon River Poetry Review, and numerous places vastly published. Her debut chapbook, which you heard from here, and I'll also just add, folks, you can go back and I keep mentioning the readings that that these amazing poets have shared today, because they've given readings prior with us here on Cultivating Voices, so that you can search and see other readings that they've given off of our Facebook page and on our YouTube channel. So please do leave the parade and create new parades with their poetry. Well, Andrea's debut chapbook is Mother Kingdom, which won the 2021 Slappering Hall Press Chapbook Competition Award and was a finalist for the 2022 International Book Awards. She is a former book editor and has worked in public libraries for 15 years. She's joining us today from a public library in Portland, Oregon, where she lives with her wife and daughter. Welcome, and glad to have you bring the Poetry Pride Parade into the parade of books that a library holds.
Thank you, Sandy. I'm so honored to be here today, to be sharing space with such incredible poets. I have an entire list of books I have to get now. And also, I'm hoping everybody can hear me. I'm joining from my phone because, as Sandy said, I'm joining from work and I was having some computer issues. So, hello, I'm super excited to be here with you folks today. I thought I would start by reading a poem by one of my favorite poets, Ellen Bass. This is from her book called The Human Line. So I'm going to be reading a poem called Evolution, which maybe you are familiar with. But you know, in a difficult time in history that we are right now, I think that this poem kind of offers some hopefulness for our community and for everyone. And it's just really beautiful. So I thought I would start with it. It's called Evolution. Loss and ruin grind under our feet like spilled salt, bad luck sticking to our souls. And joy streaks across the sky, a star burning out. Who knows what will save us? A man yanks the hair of a woman he once covered with kisses. Each kiss was a blossom, and he thought he was making his own garden. All over the world, there is failure. Our species can enter the human body with a laser, repair the shape of a cornea to sharpen all it sees, or crack the ribs and lift the heart from its home, plant it again. This exquisite intelligence, a brain firing 100 billion neurons, is still bashing its own skull with big rocks. Everywhere, staggering beauty, intricate and connected. Rivers and streams flow under our skin. We can see them through translucent cells. And inside the modest and flamboyant organs of plants, a vegetal sex is taking place. If you lie still in a soundproof room, you can hear the high tone of your nervous system and the low tone of your blood. In caves, the thinnest strands of stalactite extend a centimeter in 100 years, a single drop of water hanging from each tip, returning its burden of mineral to stone. What kind of patience can we learn? Goats chew the brilliantly long green grass. Wind carries rain across fields in dark transparencies. The water sings in the gutters, the earliest song on earth. Lovers keep breaking each other open like soft fruit, trying to bury their souls in each other's flesh. As termites undo the material world, taking apart the day, the universe is expanding, so precisely held in the web of tension, we can sleep at the edge of an ocean. Oh, primitive brain, perhaps it's you we should pray to, keeping our altars with spliced DNA and the score to box Magnificat, Gandhi's dhoti, are one hair from Mother Teresa and a cup of clear water. We could bow through the long night, prostrate, breathing in and breathing out. Somewhere in a barren desert, sand blowing, burying the tents, grit, biting into skin, someone cradles the skull of a being born 7 million years ago. Oh, Ellen Bass, my God, this book, The Human Line, the whole book is like this. I just can't even get enough of her. So I can't follow that, who can? But anyway, I have a chapbook called Mother Kingdom. It's my first chapbook. It's poetry. Like Sandy said, it's from Slapping Hall Press, who does they do these beautiful chapbooks. And so this collection is my debut collection. It's about motherhood, but it's also about being a daughter. It's about being a mother to yourself. It's about lesbian motherhood, which I agree, lesbian motherhood is the best thing ever. But what's interesting is that I also have a poem called Evolution, and it's kind of a coming out poem. I don't think I realized Ellen Bass had a poem called Evolution. when I wrote it. So it's kind of cool that there's some synchronicity there. So I'm going to try to follow the brilliant Ellen Bass with my own poem called Evolution, which goes like this. Was it when I followed my, I'm going to start over. Was it when I followed my father to the fields, his back hunched, searching for arrowheads, my feet sinking in the newly turned earth? Or was it seeing my mother from the doorway, her back a waning crescent in the dark? Words came easily to me then, alone with paper, my mind a sweet shadow, time a blanket around my shoulders. But coming out my mouth, they choked and stumbled, my face the crushed color of cherries stuck to the bottom of a boot. When I told my father I was gay, he was chopping radishes, their red skins half moons on the cutting board, little gleams of white like a promise worth keeping. His careful hands slicing, their rough wintered edges that held so many things, dogs, babies, stones the color of starlight, my wild heart beating the knife's calm rhythm. What can I fix you to eat? My mother was not so easy, her face pinched pale in the thick dark of her bedroom, thin covers a moat of righteous limbs, and I the only sinner. Even now, all these years later, my heart closes when I hear her voice. Today it's cold, but the crocuses are coming up, ochre pollen petals, small as thimbles. Soon the geese will head back north, their black wings cutting through soundless cloud. Thank you. Okay, I got one more. So I went to Catholic school, and as part of Catholic school, and I grew up in Missouri, a lot of kids, when they were seniors, would go on these retreats called Teens Encounter Christ. And so this poem is kind of a love poem for my counselor. It's called Before Girls There Was God. When I was young, I'd ask my father to go to work with him. Sweaty Missouri summers, Mountain Dew and junior mints, cutting grass at the city cemetery. He put me on a riding mower at 10. I had it precisely mapped out. 3 passes for each row, my skinny legs stuck to the hot black seat, the blade lined up just so to get close enough to the graves without scraping the sides. At 17, I got religion. For 3 days, Catholic girls in sleeping bags held hands, our Bibles tucked lovingly between us. My mother's idea. A retreat will do you good. All the girls were going. I didn't think much of it, just another chore, until I saw her that first night. Darla, the counselor in college, a gold cross nestled in the hollow of her neck, kissed tan with summer. She smelled like coconut lotion and juicy fruit, the clove cigarettes she'd sneak at lunch. When she smiled at me, I felt saved. I came back from that weekend filled with the Holy Spirit, thinking of her taut calves, the tiny blonde hairs just above her knees, the way she said my name. On the mower, it was always 1 pass on the left side, the same thing on the right, my father coming behind me with the string trimmer to get the grass just right between the graves, all the edges I'd missed. He sliced through those blades of stinging July grass like they were silk. But it was the 3rd pass, the last pass, that was my favorite. I called it the middle. I'd floor the motor as fast as it could go, riding on top of those sun-setting souls, bound by the old law. I was still alive, flying free. Thank you.
I was still alive, flying free. You know, think of that as the last line, not only of your poem, but happens to be the last line of our features for today on the Poetry Pride Parade here on Cultivating Voices. It is the perfect way to celebrate pride and keep the energy of our lives and stories vibrant and well. And I was alive. May each of us continue our stories of flight and continue to write those stories of flight. Andrea Deeken, the chapbook is Mother Kingdom from Slappering Hall Press. You followed Ellen Bass brilliantly. Do not underestimate yourself. Again, if you'd been here in the room, you would have heard, right? Woo! We were woo the whole time.
Yeah.
Ellen Bass will be saying that about your poems. Soon enough. We already are. Thank you for being with us. And thank you to the library for being gracious to allow you to, for you to be able to participate from your place of employment today. What a great set. Everyone, we're going to transition now, in just a few moments, to the next part of our parade. But I would like to remind you that we have just heard from our featured poets here these amazing floats. They're like floats on the parade route. We began.
Sandy, excuse me. Have you left off Risa?
Oh my gosh. Risa, excuse me. In all my enthusiasm, this is
Oh my gosh, your exuberance overflows, but we
know.
want to hear Risa.
Oh my gosh,
girlfriend.
we do indeed. Risa, my absolute apologies. I don't know how that happened. My Lord. Woo. Thank you. This is why Kim, Don, they're here to keep me on the. I keep getting all caught up. I thought it was a little short. Well, this is perfect also. Risa Denenberg has been with us also for each of our Poetry Pride parades. In fact, she was the very first reader in the very first Poetry Pride parade. And I remember Risa reading from her car. It is an incredible video, and I encourage y'all to go back to our first Poetry Pride parade and look at Risa's set. How could I make sense to now close out with Risa, who was one of the co-founders of Headmistress Press, our co-sponsor for today. I might have to resign my responsibilities for this terrible, oh my gosh. Folks, we close this portion of the parade as we get ready to move to the open mic with just the absolutely remarkable Risa Denenberg, who's read with us numerous times, and it can never be enough. It still can never be enough. Get ready, Jhaleh. Risa, I'm so fortunate. She is also one of my Poets on the Coast dear sisters, Risa lives on the Olympic Peninsula here in Washington State, where she works as a nurse practitioner. And you've heard poet, if you've been with us, you've been able to hear poetry that's reflected that aspect of Risa's work life. She is a co-founder of Headmistress Press, curator at the Poetry Cafe online, and the reviews editor at Rivermouth Review. Her most recent publications include the full-length poetry collection, Slight Faith from Moonpath Press, 2018, and the chapbook, Posthuman, which we were able to marvel at when Risa read in one of our new book showcases here. Posthuman was a finalist in the Floating Bridge Press 2020 chapbook competition. It is my absolute pleasure and my own horror that I hope that I do that to welcome and honor the work and the being that is Risa Denenberg. Thank you, Risa.
It's okay, Sandy. No harm. I'm going to start by reading a poem that I've probably read at the last two of these extravaganzas, but it's appropriate, and so I'm going to read it again. It is the title poem from my one Headmistress Press collection, Whirlwind at Lesbos, and it is called Whirlwind at Lesbos. We met in Istanbul, where your face was a veil, and you beckoned a reckless gesture. Close your eyes, you hissed when I dared look through your robe at your breast buds. You were 12 when we first kissed, wadded your gum under the desk, whistled at me, spit into the wind, earnestly began chewing my hair. We ran away to Naples during the long war while flames licked our feet and charred our skin. Hurry, you barked over your shoulder. I was already losing sight. I wailed all night in Jerusalem when you turned me hard against the stone wall, pressing against my back as you reached up inside me, grabbed my womb with your fist. In winter, we rented a small cottage in Copenhagen, where winds blew snow over our bed. We embraced and couldn't let go. You were cold and needed comfort. We undressed each other, maidens in the 5th century, and were discovered naked, entwined asleep, your ringlets black and soft on the silken pillow. But then I missed the cab to the airport, slept right through the alarm one morning in Cairo, and you were gone. I was beheaded with your name on my lips. The baggage was clearly marked, but reached Paris by error. I'm in New York, awaiting your email. So I'm going to read a few more poems that aren't necessarily gay themed. They're more themed towards what I guess has to be considered the Pacific Northwest bent that has taken over my poetry since I moved out here. How two trees become a forest, after Arthur Z. A teacher draws Chinese characters on the chalkboard to show how two trees become a forest. Chalk is a soft white limestone composed of the shells of foraminifers. A student looks up the Chinese character for shell. An Afghani schoolgirl covers her head and walks to the schoolhouse with broken windows. She tells the teacher she hopes to become a doctor. I bring soup to a neighbor who tells me she hopes to die soon. The girl on the radio sings, "My body's in trouble." I wonder, will I die alone? A lonely boy passes in front of a girl sketching a forest of firs and yews. Their branches barely move in the humid haze of noon. An infant grabs the wooden slats of her crib and pulls herself up to cry out for her mother. I think how much is lost without these signs to guide us. Foraminifers are single-celled amoebae. The foramen ovale is a hole in the heart that must close at birth. Ice would suffice. How swift, how far the sea carries a body from shore. Empires fail, species are lost, spotted frogs and tufted puffins forsaken. After eons of fauna and flora, hominids have stood for mere years, baffled brains atop battered shoulders. In a murky blanket of heavens, an icy planet made of diamond spins. Our sun winks like the star it was billions of years ago, without ambition. We bury bodies in shallow dirt, heedless of lacking space, or how long our makeshift planet will host us. Apocalypse selfie. After decades of careening, we landed here, searching for a feather of hope, not a head in the oven. We spend most of our time trying to steer our solitary ships in the storm. I knew the day would come when we'd see each other as enemies. We love what we love, and we hate what we don't love. Let's just say the world is too much with us. Or is it we are the world? When I was 17, so many wounded men told me to smile. My future vanished. As if a girl's smile could save anyone. In this town are old and sick 90-somethings waiting in their wheelchairs, baggy sweats worn over their depends, 2 world wars full of dust to eat when all the banks failed. No one tells their stories anymore. If I were prone to regrets, I'd admit I've failed to fully love what I love. We have failed the future. Our breasts are the drooping ice shelves of Antarctica. Our gall is burning and brimmed with stones. Denial hung on our fragile limbs until they snapped. I hate to close the book with this sad refrain. I'd rather toast the future, say, whew, we barely dodged that one. But all of Cascadia is burning. It's a miracle. You can stare right into the sun and not go blind. And a couple of new poems, they're short. This one is, and that is why there are no origin stories anymore. A pair of eagles, 2 giraffes, and the 2 of us stood there stupidly waiting side by side while fish grew wings and flew south to winter at the tiny ledge of ice melting the southernmost tip of the earth. Who finds our ruins may wonder how many millennia it took to heal swamp grass and redwood trees, wild goats and floppy-eared elephants. I want the ark to stop pairing same. It's not working. Try something new. Pair the blue whale with a green sea turtle. Bring back the woolly mammoth. I'm having that last ghost orchid feeling again. The great flood has come and gone. No one will record our extinction. Enough beauty in this world. Someone on Twitter asks us to recall the most beautiful place we'd ever seen. I said Earth, because I've never been to another planet. I'm exhausted and dirty and abandoned, and I still said Earth. Floating at the helm of my lonely seabed, I survey the damage, the centuries of neglect, and whisper Earth. Married to sheepskin, to the elk herd, to Sundays with only the radio for company, I vow to love my only mother. I've been handed moments, small and large. I've wandered many places and each one stunning. Miami, Kabul, Dubrovnik, Seattle. I've traveled by plane, by ferry, on the jet stream. I've trekked barefoot in ballet flats. I've walked for days in the desert with only a blanket for water. All of this just to remind me I live here, and still I say Earth. Thank you.
Gosh. Risa, thank you. I can't even talk after this. I can't even talk. Oh my gosh. Yeah, we're gonna blow some bubbles so I could get some breath into me. Because the poems just they take my breath away. They take the wind out of me, which is the best thing that a poem can do to me. Like, thank you. Risa, how would you feel? Could we get a signed copy of Whirlwind at Lesbos as one of our giveaways for today? Oh, you're muted.
Oh, I'm sorry. I said sure.
Yeah.
Then you can get a copy of Posthuman too if you want it, my chapbook.
All right, we'll take care of that. And that will be, again, one of our fortunate folks in the audience here. You will be receiving a copy of not one, but two of Risa's collections, courtesy of Headmistress Press, one of our co-sponsor for today's reading. Thank you again. There's not enough bubbles I can blow for that reading, which is why Jhaleh was here to help me blow more bubbles. Everybody, we are now getting ready to transition, but before I do, let me remind you of everyone that we heard from, of our featured readers. The thing that I love about Cultivating Voices, and I truly mean this, is that on any given day or night, depending on what time zone you're joining us from today, or any of our open micers could and have been our featured readers at any one of our readings. It's a very, very fluid series. And so I'm equally excited to hear from our open mic folks, but before we go to the open mic, where we'll get to hear another parade, the second part of the parade coming through, a reminder and much gratitude and bubbles to our featured readers. We heard from Meriam, Sylvia Pollack, Anne Walsh Donnelly, Mary Oishi, Karen Poppy, Andrea Deeken, and Risa Denenberg. It was the order it was supposed to be, even though I flubbed it up. I always believe it happens as it happens. Perfect symmetry in the readings. Thank you so much. And let's just take a brief pause, and how about we, because you know, at a parade, you're often hearing hoots and hollers and shouts, and let's take a moment and unmute so that we can hear a little bit of that parade love for our featured poets as we get ready for the parade to continue.
Bravo.
Thank you, readers, poets, lovers of life. Woo!
Lovers of life, indeed. Lovers of life, indeed. And thank you to all of you for being here. The parade continues with our open mic paraders. And of course, we've got a few more giveaways to go for folks here joining us. Thank you everyone for being here at the Poetry Pride Parade here on Cultivating Voices Live Poetry. Again, we are very honored to be supporting and feel very supported by Headmistress Press. We're going to hear from there's a few folks in the open mic who also have published with Headmistress Press. If you're not familiar, you sure are now, with the work of the remarkable work that co-founders Risa Denenberg, Meriam have accomplished over the years with the press. I've got two more giveaways, and I'm going to start the parade, the next part of the parade, with another giveaway. If you are not familiar with, I wish we were at a parade and I really wish I could throw these out like candy at the side of the parade. The Lesbian Trading Card Series. There's a number of them. There's a number of years. They're incredible. Look, Andrea, there's a card of Ellen Bass. There's Ellen Bass's card. Whew. Constance Merritt, Eileen Miles, Muriel Rukeyser. Oh, you grabbed some of my cards. Leslie Ann Newman. Ooh, wow. Yeah. Adrian Rich. I mean, who doesn't want these cards? Janice Gould. Oh, yeah. Chinny Chen. Jewel Gomez. Pat Parker. Hey, here's Meriam. Wow. Anyway, one of you fortunate people here today will be receiving, with our great gratitude for you joining us, we're going to have you receive the most recent collection of the trading card series. That'll be off to you. Be looking on Cultivating Voices in the next couple days to see who our lucky recipients are. And if you have folks that, I'm telling you, go to Headmistress Press and look up these cards, all the sets, because they're incredible. You'll be getting the 2022 set from Headmistress Press with our gratitude for being here today. I can't keep them all in order. There's so many. Collect them all. And get a nice, I will say, they fit beautifully into vintage recipe boxes. So not only get all the cards, but get a vintage recipe box that will hold them beautifully. All right, I have delayed us far enough, gotten my bearings after the featured readers. All about the rainbow, my friends. Happy Pride. Here we go to the open mic. I hope that it's one poem each, up to 3 minutes. Oh, we got a great parade coming up in the mic. And here we go. Our first reader today will be, oh my gosh, I can't even stand now who I'm going to get to hear. It's in the parade. Our first reader today will be Joanne James, followed by Susan Abbott. Welcome, Joanne.
Hi, I'm glad to have a parade because I live in Eugene, Oregon, and we don't have a parade.
There you go.
And they have a rally sometime in August, which is weird. It's weird here. I'm going to read coming out poem I told Mary Oishi on Facebook last week. I really believe that our coming out stories are like creation myths. And you can't tell them in enough ways, it always will mean something new. Mine is February, I know the date, February 23rd, 1985. My mother walked toward us down the driveway on Easter Sunday. She smashed the bag of frozen peas she was holding onto the asphalt and said, "Fuck tradition. Everyone else does," while she locked her eyes on mine. I was sitting behind you on your Honda 500 just 2 weeks after I left my husband. My father took to you. His first words, "Have you ever heard the song A Boy Named Sue?" He believed in you like I did. Everyone else told me it was all lies. But I saw you with your tools, unlock cars for people with lost keys. So much locked up. You held all the keys. I drowned, deaf to everyone who said you had eyes like devils. I wanted devils. I believed nothing and no one but us, our nesting and bedding down places, how we found them everywhere because we needed each other everywhere. I try to remember where our paths diverged, but only remember the first night. Too much red wine, too much slow dancing at the Laurel Tree, Syracuse, New York. And I moved to kiss you first. My entire life spinning into yours. Every life should know a honeymoon. Every life will make you tear your hair out sometime. Did I fear losing you or fear you more? Decades have passed, I'm not any wiser when it comes to memories. Only that dark in your eyes that eclipsed my heart, your scent of apples, clover, ghost pepper. You will always be racing to the finish line. I will die knowing what I thought was the moon was a streetlight, and the streetlight's gone out now. Something terrible happened. We were supposed to live happily ever after. Ghosts swarm the vacuum where you were laughing, where you held me close, where I lied for you, lied, silk, sulk, slaved. You shaved my legs in bubble baths, you stone, butch, my velvet. I will die knowing our place was not time. Our place was myth, dream, nightmare. Knowing you will never be something I could understand, someone I can live without. I will don't die knowing how you changed me. Like a boa constrictor, like a strand of pearls. Thank you. That's an underground poem. No one's heard it but you people.
Joanne James, everybody. Got a few bubbles for Joanne. I also want to, here at the parade, the moon is a street lamp. Street lamp's gone out. I want to give you the moon. I want to give you the moon. Thank you for your poem. Thank you so much. Well, we go next to Susan Abbott, followed by Ann Tweedy. Well, I'm over the moon about this open mic, by the way, about this parade. Wow. Welcome, Susan.
Well, thank you, Sandy, and thank you everybody for being here this fabulous parade. I have a little contribution from a time when I lived in Juneau, Alaska, and it's about a cruise. We had, so there was some cruise themes going on today, I heard. And Sandy, this is especially for you and your love of the Titanic. So this was a community I lived in for 6 or 7 years. And there's a reference to it in this poem to Wally and Sweet Irma Lee. And that was who was the governor and his wife at the time. And this is called The Ballad of the Olivia Cruise. 'Twas the night before Olivia when all through the town, the dykes were excited, about to get down, planning their welcome with fun and with flair, and hopes that the lesboat soon would be there. Some dykes were nestled all snug in their beds while visions of Amazons danced in their heads. And snuggling the good woman lying at my side, I dreamed of the day we'd have nothing to hide. When bright came the morning, a sunshiny day, there couldn't have been a better place in the world to be gay. The mountains rose green, the forest was lush, as we wondered on whom we might get a crush. Word was out all over the dock. The Costa Riviera at 2 o'clock would deliver its passengers in wave after wave of women loving women whose company we craved. Out of the woodwork, Juneau dykes did crawl to welcome and honor and celebrate them all. The ship down the channel drew closer by the minute. I got out my binoculars to see who was in it. The women grew more lovely the nearer they got, all colors, all sizes, all ages, all hot. They let loose their hoots, they let loose their howls, they let loose their tongues in a language of vowels. Ooh, ah, oh, yes, they panted. The sound of their pleasure they heartily chanted. Out of our heads, our eyes almost did pop by the time that boat finally came to a stop. A year's worth of planning and anticipation for Juneau to host a whole lesbian nation. We stood on the dock, our offerings in hand, ready to show them this fabulous land. We featured the glacier, Mount Roberts, and more. We showed them a good time when they came ashore. In buses and kayaks, in vehicles rented, the bonds of sisterhood were firmly cemented. Up on South Franklin and Seward and Maine, all over Juneau, the lesbians reigned. Dykes at the salmon bake, dykes on the trails, dykes out in skiffs looking for whales, dykes in white satin, dykes in black lace, dykes in sequins, dykes in my face, dykes in the heritage sipping iced tea, dykes in the Red Dog winking at me. Dykes waving at Wally while sweet Irma Lee took up with the dykes and ran off to sea, to a wild world of women, bodacious and free, who love one another passionately. Some of us flirted and most of us kissed. We got a good dose of something we'd missed. Into their cabins did some of us tumble, sating our lust in the shade of Mount Jumbo. For that whole day, the city was ours, held in a thrall of lesbian powers. When dykes pulled together, we unleash mighty forces that keep the sun, the moon, and the stars on their courses. It was as if Sappho had gathered an ark full of girls and made this the best of all possible worlds, with Alaska renewed after some great flood, with children all of lesbian blood. Thank you.
Oh my gosh, Susan, that was a whole parade in one poem.
Thank you.
I wish Olivia Cruz was one of, well, Cohen could be one of our sponsors. I mean, it'd be amazing. In honor of your poem, the cruise ship for you.
All right.
It is actually the SS United States. I happen to know. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you for listening.
Oh my God. Well, as I mentioned, everybody, featured poets, open micers, featured poets, and Tweedy, our next open micer, has been both, was in the Poetry Pride Parade, and I'm so glad you could join us today for the open mic, and I'm sure you'll be with us for a Poetry Pride Parade in the future also. And again, just I'll mention because Anne is because Headmistress Press is one of our sponsors, that Anne's collection has a collection with Headmistress Press. So I'm not doing bios for everybody, but I want to give the shout outs to Headmistress Press. They're so amazing, and so glad that your collection exists in the world and that you're with us today.
Oh, thank you so much, Sandy. It's great to read after Susan with that coming out poem. The Olivia Cruz poem, that was so fun. And then the coming out poem before that I loved as well. I thought I'd just read a love poem called Kilter. And this is in my book, The Body's Alphabet. Kilter, when the days line up flat one after another ahead of me, and I feel like a traveling salesman whose territory is the wide, plowed, sectioned off Midwest. Contiguous squares and rectangles chopped into rows and columns, as orderly as abacuses, never off kilter for even a minute. Thinking of your body saves me. I think of how we fit together, your slopes and my angles, irregular, messy perfection. I think of your oblong breasts, the left smaller than the right, how your resistant nipples harden finely between my rubbing fingers or against the insistent beat of my tongue, taut moments when my body understands rhythm and teases and trains your pleasure to the song that we're writing together. I think of the faint, acrid smell of your smooth, slightly tan skin, the smell that clings to the strands of your armpit hair, strongest when I rest my head half against your large upper arm and half against your chest, of how resting there both stirs me and puts me at ease, sensations the female body alone can synchronize. I think of the way, sitting up, you examine my body lying on the bed, marveled by my collarbone or the new leaves of shoulder muscles or the jut of my pelvis, like the current scoured stone you palmed before we met. And I remember how your eyes drink me with the slow lap of an animal accustomed to abundance. Your eyes that look and still each morning see me new. And then all the coming hours begin to breathe that promise too. Thank you.
Absolutely beautiful. Thank you. And Tweedy, collection I was mentioning is The Body's Alphabet. Check it out. Feel free, folks, in the open mic also here in our Poetry Pride Parade to put information about your work and collections as well. And we move on with gratitude for those who've read before and those coming after. Next, Ara, I'm so glad you're with us today. It has been a time since you've been also featured here on Cultivating Voices, and great to have Ara Morgenstern, and Ara will be followed by Jennifer Elise Wang.
Thank you so much. I'm glad to be here in such good company of such wonderful poets. I have two short poems that fall under 3 minutes that I think are kind of inseparable. Yeah, this first one is called Horizons. I learned love cannot be found within the ocean when I noticed I was drowning. I sculpted wings of wax and thought I was a bird. I fell in love with sky, my home. I found my solace and my peace, then learned I'm miles and miles away, stranded, lost in darkness, making my own light. I am the sun. I've never been among the sky. I fooled myself. How dare I fool myself? Before he fell, did Icarus catch fire? I'm made of fire. I burn the ones who get too close. I called you mine Himmel. I burned, turned all we had to ash and smoke. I'm filled, stock full. Regrets, sorry, can't heal these burns. And this next one is called Underfoot. I thought he had broken my sternum, ripped my heart from my chest, but I turned around and he was offering it back to me, cradling it gently in his hands in one piece. The only problem was that I never asked to have it back. I don't know where it belongs anymore. I can't put it back. There is no opening. It escaped through in the first place. Must I cradle this heart in these hands in that same manner? I fear it'll end up underfoot. Thank you.
Ara, thank you. Oh, where's my heart? Here's my heart. Here's my heart for you. Yeah. I'll see you soon, I hope. Thank you. Well, Jennifer Elise Wang is next. I'm excited to hear. Hi, Jennifer. And then Jennifer, then Jhaleh, you're going to be after Jennifer. So thanks for being here today, Jennifer.
Yeah, thanks for having this. Yeah, I thought about dressing up because I do drag. I'm a drag king, but my face needs a break from makeup, so I not. But I wore this shirt that my friend made. Which, so yeah, and my poem is about drag. For those of you who aren't in the US, there's been a lot of anti-trans, anti-drag sentiments and even attempts at legislation that have popped up. And the one that happened in Texas, it happened the weekend I was doing drag story time. And I actually came home and found out, I was in a different city, and I came home and found out one of the bars near my own little home strip had extremist protesters outside a family event. So this poem came out of that. It's called Drag Be the Law. When I was reading to children in another city with my spiked up hair and drawn on beard, a group of fascists invaded my neighborhood. They didn't make it in, but now the same lawmakers who invaded our bodies are trying to halt our joy and pride because they don't like rhinestones and wigs on men and trans women and cis women and non-binary folk. Anyone can be a drag queen after all. Those politicians probably don't like fake facial hair on femmes either. They would rather have kids stare down the barrel of an AR-15 than into thickly lined eyes framed by false lashes. They would rather have kids put a hand on a Glock than hand $1 to a glittery glove that was voguing and tutting. They would rather have kids in a shroud than with feather boas around their necks. For weeks, the nation cried over innocent lives taken in a senseless act of violence. But do the citizens realize the number of youth who have already died senselessly because they think the world will never love them? Because your parents can say they love you, but they'll keep you from cutting your hair even when you're over 30 and create a personal don't ask, don't tell policy for your partner of 5 years and counting. Because your roommates will celebrate your coming out, but only with the caveat that you never make a move on them. Because you can't ignore the names of bullies call you, or because you can ignore the names bullies call you, but you can't ignore the name your friends and family insist is yours, but feels as much a prison as your body. Because doctors would rather you live body horror than acknowledge that at 8 years old, you know who you are. The drag of cis heteronormativity is the most exhausting, joyless performance a person can give. So if we are committing a crime, when I share my love of skateboarding at story time, while my sibling struts in a pink bustle and mustache, and my brother shakes his hips like Elvis, while one sister does a jump split to Britney, and the other pretends to sing like Whitney, yet children who are part of this giant rainbow alphabet soup can finally have a place to feel free and loved, then yes, we plead guilty.
Woo! The rainbow alphabet.
Thank
The
you.
rainbow alphabet. Thank you. Whoa. This is what the parade is about. Oh, loving it. Thank you so much. Jhaleh, we're moving literally next door to how will this work for you? That's good? Okay. And you will be followed, my dear friend. And now I cannot scroll here. Bryan Franco. Fantastic.
I have been crying throughout this afternoon, and I just want to start by saying thank you. It is such a blessing to be with each of you today. And Sandy, I'm so grateful. Sandy may have mentioned at the beginning, and I don't know that everyone was in the room, but Sandy is a very dear mentor about living to me. And so I just want to thank you, Sandy, for inviting me to be here. And I've been loving how as each person has been reading, Sandy's been like, go over to that corner of the house and grab that shit that I have over my AC, or, hey, do you mind reaching over off screen? Do you mind reaching over and grabbing that heart so that I can hold it up after this person's poem, and just plucking these living lines out of people's poems. So Sandy, I just really honor and love and have deep gratitude for the ways that you cultivate all of these living poems all around you. Thank you. And with gratitude for Audre Lorde's living work, I just wanted to share the poem by Audre Lorde, and the title is Mentor. Scaling your words like crags, I found silence, speaking in a mouthful of sun. Yet I say you are young, for your lips are not stone to the rain's fall. I say you are lovely to speak in a mouthful of sun, nor does summer await you. I see the midnight heavy as windows sealed against fire, and tears coiled like snakes in your eyes. I see your forehead like snow and the names of so many winters. Your fingers play over, plucking out rays of light to anoint me home. Yet I say you are young, and your lips are not stone to be weathered, rather a song, learned when my Aprils were fallow. I sing this for Beacon, lighting us home, each to our separate house.
Wow. That's Jhaleh reading from the amazing Audre Lorde. Again, this is a book of essays, Sister Outsider. Glad that we're able to bring the legacy of certainly one of my mentors, literary mentors. The legacy, the connect. Also, trading cards are really all about that, the lineages as well. I can't say that enough. If you are wanting to connect to how generations of poets speak across space and time to each other, these lesbian trading cards are a really miraculous way to experience that. From Headmistress Press, our co-sponsor today for the Poetry Pride Parade. Well, we are parading along mightily, and I'm so grateful for every single one of the voices that is here today sharing work, and those of you here in the audience listening. Thanks for being on the open mic. I am looking for Bryan Franco, if Bryan is still here. And then we'll be followed by Samari. I think I don't see Bryan still. Wait.
He's here.
Oh, Bryan's here. Bryan, thank you.
Right here.
Hi, Bryan. I'm so glad you're here today.
Yeah, I'm glad to be here.
I love your hat.
Thank you.
That's a parade hat if there ever was
I just
one.
want to thank you and Kim. I get to see y'all in Ireland quite a bit, but
Yeah.
This is my first Cultivating Voices, and I'm going to go ahead and read a poem for everyone, which is called When a Kiss Feels Like Life Exists in a Movie. You leaned in to kiss me, and somehow our noses didn't crash into each other. Somehow the way your lower lip and upper lip managed to grab and release my lower lip seemed as if a famous movie director had choreographed our first kiss. I felt my heart beating against the Pima cotton blue and white striped polo dress shirt I wore beneath a red cashmere sweater. Your hand was on my shoulder and you rubbed it across my barely there 20-year-old chest and commented in a soft voice, I love the feel of cashmere. Then you wrapped your 23-year-old arms around me as you pressed your soft lips against mine, and time stood still. I felt your hands travel down my back, and you stepped away and smiled at me and said, if you want to stay a little longer, you can. You were older than me, and my only other experience with the guy was this guy in front of me in line at a grocery store with whom I had an innocuous small talk conversation, who then walked up to me after I got to my car. He was gorgeous with perfect hairy runner's legs. He started a conversation as I put my groceries in the trunk. I hope I'm not wrong, but I don't live far from here if you want to come by. I didn't realize we were flirting with each other by simply having a conversation. We started kissing at his place and he was overzealous with his tongue, which I wasn't too fond of, but it didn't take too long for two skinny college boys to find their way to naked. Every touch from his fingertips and hands felt like my body was custom made for him. It was as if he was made of electricity. He was my first. There were things I needed to learn. He became my tutor. I was a willing student. We'd meet once or twice a week at his place, which lasted for about 2 months. We'd always get naked within a few minutes of my arriving and stay undressed my entire visit as if we were nudists. I bought Paul Young's Secret of Association. I put the cassette in his stereo system on side 2. The first song was I Want to Tear Your Playhouse Down. The whole side 2 was a soundtrack for a sex rom. I think we cared for each other, but it was the 80s, we were closeted, and there was no chance of us continuing without blowing up each other, without blowing up our lives. When you and I met, you were a grad assistant to a professor. I made an appointment with you to help me with something I didn't understand. Afterward, you suggested we grab some dinner sometime. Again, another time I didn't realize I was flirting. I could definitely feel my heart beating against my preppy knit shirt as I sat opposite your desk. And when you took me out to that healthy food restaurant and paid the bill, I was too naive to realize we were on a date. It was a breezy, cool, early spring evening. You suggested we take a walk in a small nearby park. You asked me if you could kiss me beneath a blooming magnolia tree. It was a soft, gentle kiss, but felt more passionate than any kiss my previous sort of not boyfriend had ever planted on me. You asked me to follow you back to your place, which I didn't hesitate to do. You were never overzealous with your tongue or a sloppy kisser. Our secret 6-month tryst laid the groundwork for how I learned to treat future romantic partners with respect. You never pushed me to do things I didn't want to do. We had stopped seeing each other by November. You finished your graduate degree shortly after and then moved across the country. It should have broken my heart and sent me into a severe depression. But you had taught me I was capable of eventually having a real relationship with another man, even though it would take me several years till I moved to New York City in 1993 to live as an out gay man and have a full-fledged relationship. I don't think we were in love, though I might have thought we were. We both lived separate lives outside of us. Grocery store guy was more of a dalliance, the start of a new learning curve. What we were was more than that, even though it was just a secret and we never met or talked again. It felt as if our story was a series of vignettes in a movie directed by a not yet famous director before his first film would change the life of a closeted gay 20-year-old college kid desperately in need of the kind of knowledge and experience to recognize his true self and live a full life. Thank you.
Thank you, Bryan Franco. I tip my hat to you. Some bubbles for you. So glad you're at the parade today. Rainbow and some electricity. Some electricity. Oh my gosh. Oh, I love that hat too. See you next time. Bryan has a great reading series too. Look up Bryan in Cultivating Voices, and you can find links to find out about Bryan's reading series.
I just put everything in the chat as well. And how
Thank you.
You can also buy my book, Everything I Think Is All in My Mind.
Amazing, Bryan Franco. Oh, so glad you could be with us today. I'm really moved by your work. Well, another poet that I adore, Samari Zysk. And Samari, I'm so glad you're here today. And then we'll hear from Isaac Cohen. Oh my gosh, all like people I adore and love here at the parade. It's amazing.
Right. Hi, everybody. I'm Samari. I use them pronouns. I'm non-binary / gender fluid. I've been a little burnt out on rage. So this one's one of my more happier poems. It was part of my thesis, and it is about how masculinity fits into my gender, even though it's not all of it. It is called Gender in a Tide Pool. The boy wished to be a shape, stationary, whimsical, only a thought in the riptide mind caught in constant confluence. I recognized him. He was agonizing. He spoke a lexicon of things I couldn't understand. He said my name like it was a gentle thing. He made everything seem soft and fine because he had no edges. I saw him through the eaves overgrown with my eyelashes. He battered back and forth. He was caught in a ceaseless tide, fading in and out of himself like breath in a belly. He told me behind his hands that he wished he could fill them. What is the solution to wanting? We asked each other at the same time. The boy wished to be a shape. He was never born. He named himself syllable by syllable, like how a starfish grows its limbs. He took my hands and I felt the carefulness of him. The solution to want, he said, is creation. Thank you, everybody.
Samari, how amazing to see you today at the Poetry Pride Parade. For you, the glass starfish. The glass starfish. Samari's read with us in our previous numerous times. And again, I'm so glad to see everybody on the parade route today. It's been amazing and continues to be amazing. And my heart is just full. Yes. Well, next we get to hear the amazing voice of Isaac Cohen. Isaac is still here in the room with us, and I'm just double checking. It's very late. It's late in Israel, and so it may not. Okay, I think then next, I'm so sorry. We'll get to hear Isaac soon at a future open mic.
I think Isaac is here.
Oh, okay. I'm looking at my lists and
He's
okay.
I've
Isaac,
asked-
welcome. Okay.
Hi.
Hi, Isaac. There you are.
Dear Sandy, dear Kim, and dear Don, and congrats to all my friends and at the celebrity of Prada. Isaac Cohen. The meeting of love. A swarm of butterflies took me to you. A beautiful girl near the lake. My eyes flashed. I asked to smell your air. You gave me the paradise aroma. Your pleasantness stay with me forever. And the second is Isaac Cohen. This is the new. Isaac Cohen, the hummingbird. You flew over my flower eyes like a hummingbird. You sip a nectar. Do you enjoy enough You sip and move on like a muse. Tell me a song in sequels. Non-stop. We will love together for eternity. Thank you, Cohen, Israel, and thank you, Sandy, and all my friends in the world. Thank you.
That is a beautiful human being that is Isaac Cohen. Thank you for joining us here on the
Yeah,
Poetry
thank
Pride
you.
Parade today. We get, yes, the heart, the heart, the heart, the heart. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Well, next, the parade is starting to come to its conclusion. Our final three readers are upcoming. And next, I'm so glad that my dear Salmon sisters, Salmon Poetry sisters, is here with us today. Always love hearing poem from Lorde Desrosiers.
Thank you, Sandy. I'm going to read a poem from a chapbook I wrote a few years back. I'm all sorts of things, but among them is a domestic abuse survivor, and I wanted to read from Inner Sky, and this is the title poem. That marriage was trees falling, ripped from their roots and flung, felling her so hard she died a little. So when she left, took time to clear him from her mind, where words resounded, such as stupid and can't. You'd think the light, the slider doors on her first apartment would have made it easier, but nothing is easy. She picked herself out of the piles, scattered along the path she'd cleared. Without him, she could see a flicker of a girl who used to sing and write. Some days the hands let go. The part of her he corrupted would come back and ruin things. That freedom was inner sky. Long warm days, learning to live alone, made a decision to let go, to give herself permission, to ask herself, what do I think? To never give her power to another again. She knows her way now. She sometimes even lends a hand to others mired in storm. Can I read you the last piece in the book? It's very short. Is that okay? New season. I am alive, running over rocks, wet rocks, still tipped with winter's frosting. I almost slip, barely holding on. This is the key to spring's return, a long garden path, already blooming with forsythia, cherry. Soon marigolds will bring tomatoes, peppers, squash, leaving winter only a bookmark. Thanks.
I've never heard you read that. Inner Sky. And thank you for bringing that poem to us today, and for reminding us that all of us here in the room, we are all so many things. And while today that we are celebrating pride, pride is prismatic. That is the point of it. And so I wanted to give you these mandala rocks.
Oh, they're beautiful. Thank you. That's great. Anyway, that was before I came out to myself. It took me a long time. So thank you and happy Pride to everybody.
Happy Pride. I'm so grateful that you are in my life, and look up Lori's work. You've heard Lori read many times with us, and there can never be enough times. And of course, also check out Lori's the editor of numerous things. If you put those in the chat, Naugatuck River Review. If you've not checked it out, make sure you do. All right, everyone. Oh, get ready, Jhaleh. I have a feeling that's something. I know something amazing is about to happen whenever Yeva Johnson joins us, and then we will close out the parade. Oh, with Cynthia Steele. Welcome, Yeva. I'm glad you're here.
Thank you so much, Sandy. And thank you to Dawn, Kim, and Sandy. I'm really happy to be here. I have one poem. I call these body poems. You'll see why. And if you have a part of this body, I will be shocked, but not expecting, Sandy. This is called Bloody Venting on a Flight of Humors. On a good day, the scent of fresh splenic blood tucked just under the left costophrenic angle, nestled in its warm, dark, hypochondriac home, perfumes this woman on the hunt for love, or perhaps just bodily fulfillment. They don't call mononucleosis the kissing disease for nothing. And without a spleen, our heroine could never taste the lips of her divine desires, unaccompanied by the protection of the quiet white blood cell incubator, which presents antigens from moist labia to mature lymphocytes ready to protect any adventurous host. She's all hot and bothered, tons of platelets held in storage in case her love play gets too rough and any blood spills. With a diaphragm for a roof, the red blood cell recycling center casts its net for the expiring and damaged so that the crimson streams of ardor remain pure. Back in the time before pricking vaccines, it was the splenic pulp that produced the clanging components to fight off infections whenever two bodies came together in fervor to mix or exchange fragrant fluids. When her wet tongue slips over nape or earlobe, the slick capsule of the spleen shivers in anticipatory delight, because as one lover embraces another, arousal spreads its humor deeper, ever deeper. But, as one might fear, two women queer, wrapped in such bodily delight, might not persevere. Perhaps they fight. The affair that had flown high in the sky, so hot and heavy, breaks open to release a surging outpour of black bile, a bitter ocean in their throats. She shouts angry words at her lover, who screeches them back, each one igniting the celiac plexus with their deafening fury. Now lassitude reigns as she's left in a daze, in a splenic vein pool of melancholy pouring from the hilum. Her single days returned, so it's back to the hunt for love, for lust, for fun. A Talmudic laughter and that squeaky squeeze of trabecular myoepithelial cells supply a reservoir of blood and a sense of humor to perk her up. She seeks romantic adventure, and before long she finds a new love. She adores them, and they adore her. Their firm, entwined limbs resemble lush cords of bilroth interlaced behind the fundus of the stomach. This time, all her roiling ruby rage released, she and they jointly swim in the rose, lavender, and periwinkle pools of passion, eros, and love. Thank you.
Say what you said to me, Jhaleh.
I said we need more doctors like Yeva. I'm praying for it.
We need more. Yeah. Wow.
Thank you.
Amazing. Amazing, Yeva.
Thank you.
Thank you. I thought we might get to hear a little flute, but I'm reminded always of the flute whenever you're there, apt for the parade today. Well, thank you, Yeva. And we now, is there a term for like the last person in the parade? Is there like a word for that? If anyone knows it, put it in the chat. Because that person for today, to close out our Poetry Pride Parade, is Cynthia Steele.
Thank you. I'm afraid I cannot hold a candle to you all, but I will share a memory. It's a poem, but it's a memory I've never written about. So it's new. Be patient. Okay. It is Pride. In my 30s, Seattle, Capitol Hill, gay AA, that meeting because I needed holding. I needed to cry about it there, honey, because my skin hurt with the memory and I could feel everything. The rapes while passed out in some bed with some wolf since I was 9, drugged by a stepfather, drunk with men since. Before sobriety in Seattle, in Alaska, I learned that you did not want me, my friend. You would not take me, even if I threw my used up wanton body at you. Lake awakening to my palm, fingers tracing his shoulder, his collarbone. No, not even. Knock it off. How many times do I have to tell you? I know, you don't want me. Oh no, honey, don't put those words in my mouth or anything else. I love you, just not like that, okay? I looked at these clear blue eyes that would leave me way too soon. I'm sorry I was drunk again. Shh, I don't judge. I was there. Lake left me the early 90s where I'd met him in the strip club. Lake spun discs for strippers like me. 21, swinging peach cape round and round, left me without white belt loops, hips growing thinner day by dark day, thumping bass grooves, hips twisting, hips vanished in fractured disco. Sorry. Lawrence in small town college class kept me in stitches, laughing to tears. Dr. Ting Ping, our instructor, couldn't say understand, but said rubber sand instead. Rubber sand? Ouch, ouch, rubber sand, we giggled. Tears streaming down our insolent faces. Lawrence knew me better than most. Lawrence and Lake disclosed their love of same in my ear, blushing in my 20s, winter of my discontent, seeking safety in gay men's arms, fatherless, lonely, frightened girl, learning pride safe in gay men's arms.
Thank you. Amazing poem. Keep working. Keep working on it. You got it. You got it. You got it. Everybody, happy Pride. The parade. It's almost over. A few final bubbles and comments. I want to remind you all that it is difficult to blow bubbles and moderate the show at the same time. But as I do, I share with you, we heard in the open mic, thank you for the bubbles, continue on. We heard in the open mic today, what a fantastic parade of poets. We were able to hear from Joanne James, Susan Abbott, and Tweedy, Ara Morgenstern, Jennifer Elise Wang, Jhaleh, here you were. I'm blowing the bubbles and helping me out here. Bryan Franco, Samari Zysk. Oh, I'm good. I can barely get through the names. You're all such beautiful people, what you brought today. Isaac Cohen, Lorde Desrosiers, Yeva Johnson, and Cynthia Steele. Thank you, one and all, for being part of this Poetry Pride Parade with our featured readers. One more time, a reminder that you heard from Meriam, Sylvia Pollack, Ann Walsh Donnelly, Mary Oishi, Karen Poppy, Andrea Deeken, and Risa Denenberg. What? The third time's a charm, they say. And with all the strife of the past week and really of the difficulty of the pandemic, the fact that we can come together once a year for this particular celebration and honoring of our stories and our histories and the voices that have inspired us to speak out is a true gift, and I'm grateful that we were able to spend this time today at our Poetry Pride Parade here on Cultivating Voices, live poetry, with thanks, of course, to Headmistress Press, our co-sponsor today, and those of you that are going to be receiving some wonderful gifts. You'll be hearing from us about that. Thank you to all the work Headmistress Press does to keep poetry alive and well in this community. Get your trading cards. They are amazing. Go order them, as well as the incredible books that Headmistress Press publishes. Well, you'll be joining us, I hope, next week. We'll be having our open mic, and we're going to revive that theme from last year, interdependence, the day before Independence Day here in the States. Interdependence. So come join us here on the open mic next Sunday. And again, my absolute gratitude for parading today. And what can I say? Happy Pride, everyone. Keep living your lives and being who you are and writing those stories. Shouting them from the rooftops or from the ocean or from the sky. Keep being the miraculous people that you are. And as I always say at the end of every program, please do give gratitude and thanks to your beloveds. Take very, very good care of them. And keep writing, keep writing. This is Sandy Yannone for Cultivating Voices Live Poetry. Our third annual Poetry Pride Parade has completed. Be well, my friends. And thank you to Don Krieger and Kim Ports Parsons. Cannot do it without you. There we go.